Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Have you ever stopped to actually look at the machine sitting on your desk, or maybe the one glowing in your lap right now? We completely take these incredible devices for granted, but I promise you, the story of how we got here is an absolutely wild ride. Today, we're going to trace the evolutionary race of the personal computer. We'll see exactly how we went from those incredibly heavy, low-memory beige boxes, the ones with the jet engine fans and those super loud clicking floppy drives, all the way to the completely silent, sleek, liquid-cooled extensions of ourselves that we literally use every single day. Our journey kicks off in 1981, when IBM dropped the Model 5150. And guys, this was a 25-pound behemoth. Under the hood, this giant was chugging along at a modest 4.77 megahertz, with just 16 kilobytes of RAM. To put that into perspective, a single low-resolution selfie taken on your smartphone today would crash this entire system 1,000 times over. You had to load your programs using these massive, bendable 5.25-inch floppy disks, and if you wanted top-tier visuals, well, you got a staggering 320 by 200 pixels of blocky color. So that really begs the question, how on earth did a 25-pound cinder block become the ultra-sleek, lightweight machine sitting on your desk? Well, it definitely wasn't a straight line. It's actually this amazing, completely cutthroat journey of 10 rival brands pushing human-centric technological evolution. Each of these companies identified and solved entirely different problems. Some tackled price, some portability, others just wanted raw power. But together, they completely rewired how we interact with silicon to shape our modern digital world. And this brings us to our first major divide in computing philosophy. On one side, you've got IBM making this radical choice to just bypass corporate secrecy altogether. They used off-the-shelf parts, basically inviting competitors to build an open ecosystem, which ultimately birthed the entire modern software industry. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, we see Apple's philosophy taking root. They fiercely held the belief that software and hardware had to be a seamless, closed-box experience. You couldn't easily swap out parts, sure, but their promise was that everything just worked perfectly the second you plugged it in. Now, while these two giants were battling it out, charging literally thousands of dollars for heavy business machines, affordability suddenly entered the chat. A scrappy company named Commodore decided to sneak right past the corporate titans and bring computing directly into the American living room. In 1982, they dropped the Commodore 64 at an incredible, highly disruptive price of just $595. So how did they keep it so cheap while everyone else was pricing normal families entirely out of the market? Well, they executed an absolute strategic masterstroke. They bought their own chip-making factory. It was the ultimate cheat code for pricing. And making technology affordable and fun paid off massively. Nearly 17 million units sold. Think about that. The Commodore 64 still holds the world record as the single best-selling desktop computer model of all time. It outsold every individual PC model that came after it. It basically proved that if you stop treating the computer like some sterile office tool and instead turn the living room into a digital playground, you build a cultural legacy that defines a whole generation. Apple, meanwhile, was looking around at the tech world and seeing this boring sea of green text on black screens. They wanted to replace all that tediousness with actual human intuition. So in 1984, they introduced the Macintosh 128K. And in doing so, they totally killed the idea that you needed to be some kind of genius typing cryptic commands just to use a PC. Instead, they gave us the desktop metaphor. You now had a physical mouse to point with, digital folders to organize your stuff, and digital trash cans to throw things away. They turned the computer from an accountant's calculator into an intuitive must-have lifestyle tool for the creative class. This innovation was accelerating at breakneck speed. We went from the open architecture of IBM in 81, right into the living room dominance of Commodore in 82, over to the graphical interface of the Mac in 84. The industry was just evolving faster than anyone could predict. But then, right in 1985, a Japanese giant named Toshiba stepped in and completely unchained us from the mahogany desk forever. While everyone else was scrambling to build bigger, more powerful desktop towers, Toshiba decided computers should simply disappear into a briefcase. The Toshiba T1100 weighed under 10 pounds. To pull this off, they completely ditched the heavy, fragile hard drive, relying instead on 3.5-inch floppy disks and a low-power reflective LCD screen. By completely reinventing power management and standardizing that clamshell laptop layout, they essentially gave birth to the work-from-anywhere, coffee shop, airplane tray table culture that we all completely rely on today. Okay, this is one of my absolute favorite parts. How was the massive corporate monopoly of IBM finally broken? Believe it or not, it started with a group of renegade engineers meeting up in a Houston pie shop. They formed a company called Compaq because they wanted to run IBM's incredibly popular software without actually being IBM. To pull this off, they executed a legendary corporate heist maneuver called clean room reverse engineering. They had one team study IBM's system, write down exactly what it did without copying a single line of IBM's code, and then handed those plain English instructions to a second, totally isolated team who painstakingly rewrote the BIOS completely from scratch. This gave them the exact same functionality without triggering massive copyright lawsuits, and boom, the world's first truly 100% IBM-compatible PC was born. Now, I say Compaq made a portable PC, but actually, scratch that. Let's be real. Their debut was a 28-pound beast featuring a tiny green phosphor monitor. Honestly, it looked a lot more like a heavy sewing machine than a sleek modern laptop. Can you even imagine lugging 28 pounds onto your morning commuter train? No way. But despite that backbreaking weight, it was a massive hit. It completely liberated the office worker, allowing ambitious professionals to finally take their critical work home for the weekend. That brilliant bit of legal and technical engineering propelled Compaq to become the youngest company in American history to ever hit the Fortune 500. Right around that exact same time, a college student named Michael Dell started a business in his University of Texas dorm room with just $100. And he completely flipped the retail script through pure logistical genius. First, he bypassed those expensive retail storefronts to sell directly to the consumer. Second, he let users completely custom configure their hardware. Third, he used just-in-time manufacturing to drastically undercut standard retail prices. And finally, he delivered the whole shebang right to your doorstep. By treating the customized PC as a doorstep-delivered commodity, Dell forced this entire bloated tech industry to become remarkably customer-centric. As the scale of global business exploded over the next couple of decades, corporate focus shifted heavily toward reliability. HP, a company famously born in a tiny Palo Alto garage, built a massive reputation on manufacturing these easy-to-maintain, toolless tanks. These were machines that were incredibly sturdy, easy for IT departments to pop open and upgrade without even needing a screwdriver, and they were built to last a full decade. On the flip side, Lenovo stepped up in 2005, bought IBM's iconic PC division, and took their inherited Think DNA into completely indestructible territory, military-grade standards designed to survive the absolute harshest travel conditions on Earth. Fast forward a bit, and both of these giants successfully evolved their massive enterprise footprint into incredibly sleek performance solutions for the modern era. HP moved towards stunning 27-inch 4K all-in-ones, literally squeezing massive data and power delivery through a single elegant 10 gigabit per second USB-C cable. Lenovo, meanwhile, engineered these tiny lunchbox-sized PCs that somehow pack enough thermal punch to power 3 independent 4K monitors simultaneously. It's wild. They keep modern multi-screen workspaces incredibly powerful, yet completely clutter-free. Then you've got Acer playing a really brilliant dual hand to reach market dominance. On one side, they optimized their global supply chain to become the ultimate budget gatekeeper. They provided affordable, high-speed processors and massive 1 terabyte drives for millions of cost-conscious college students. But at the same time, they completely shattered that budget image by launching the Predator line. These are highly aggressive gaming desktops featuring heavily overclocked CPUs, massive cooling fins, and blazing fast 144Hz refresh rate monitors. Through this strategy, they successfully dominated both the quiet university library and the extreme, neon-lit gaming den. We're going to cap off our timeline with ASUS, which is a brand with a true hardware-first soul. What's fascinating about them is they started off as raw engineers making the very backbone of the PC, the motherboard itself. Because of those deep component-level roots, they understood power delivery better than anyone else in the game. They were able to transform the desktop from a boring beige utility box into a high-octane status symbol, complete with synchronized RGB lighting and sci-fi aesthetics that directly helped create modern gaming culture as we know it today. Refusing to ever just play it safe, ASUS constantly pushes the absolute boundaries of what a personal computer can actually do. They're integrating next-generation tech before almost anyone else: Wi-Fi 7, 10 gigabit Ethernet, and completely custom liquid-cooled graphics cards. They utilize Thunderbolt 4 ports with mind-blowing 40 gigabit per second speeds. To put that kind of bandwidth into perspective, it allows creative professionals to move massive, uncompressed 8K video files across their desk just as easily as you or I would move a tiny kilobyte text document. It's truly incredible. And that really brings us to a perfect thought to wrap this up. The most exciting part of computing is always what is coming. Think about it. Every single time you drag a digital folder, boot up a demanding video game, or plug into a high-speed USB port, you are actively interacting with the ghosts of these incredible innovators. From IBM to Apple, Commodore to Toshiba, pie shops to dorm rooms, they've proven that technology isn't just some static commodity, it is a thrilling, ever-evolving race that constantly pushes human potential forward. So take a look at that incredible, highly evolved machine sitting right there on your desk or resting in your hands right now. You are holding a device with vastly more computing power at your fingertips than what was required to land humans on the moon. The only question left for you is, what are you going to build next?